There we are. Yep. All right, Patrick. It looks like we're on there. All right. See ya. 19 viewers already. 24. All right. No, not that one. The other one. You have to scroll down to the lavalier mic and.
This is the lavalier mic,
Oh,
baby.
that is okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no
it's
audio
going
on
to-
video portion. Okay, well it should be working now.
All right, so
And-
get involved and feel free. I see Doug is watching, which
Yeah.
is really disappointing. I'm disappointed in him for watching.
I
but,
like when Doug watches.
but maybe that was hot. But maybe feel free to interact. We're only doing it on the fan page right now and on the Inside STL channel on YouTube. And yeah, so for some reason, every time we do this little thing, when I hit start streaming, it turns off the lavalier mic, which is actually attached to the chair since Joe is joining me for it now. So anyway, because the mic was not working initially, this is a dry run, as we were saying. We're only doing it on the fan page and on the Inside STL YouTube channel. And as we go over the course of spring training, we will put it on Twitter and let the dog avatars have their way with us throughout the course of it. But Joe is here, and I am here, and we're looking forward to talking it over with you. A few things that I will put out there as far as things that I want to discuss. And Joe, you've been on the radio program and doing a fine job this week as we broadcast the 15th year from spring training. Number one, the Cardinals, and I just saw this Matt Carpenter article, which I see has fans banty, so I will read from some of that for those of you who are not familiar with it yet. Secondarily, any and all thoughts on what we have seen so far from a couple days in Jupiter at spring training. Number three, the topic that I would have bet the cat a lot of money that the Battlehawks wouldn't sell 25,000 tickets, and I would have lost a lot of money. I also was willing to bet a lot of money with the Plowhawk that the Cardinals would make a major move before opening day, and right now it looks like I will lose that bet. And somebody told me, by the way, it's 3-1 and not 10-1. I thought it was 10-1.
What?
The bet I made with him.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to let him bet up to where I would lose $1,000. So I thought he was getting 10-1 on $10, and I was going to have to pay him 100. But somebody keeps insisting, somebody with the Buck Swope audio history, that it was 3-1. But anyway, the Battlehawks, which seems to be the talk of St. Louis. I mean, hell, the Blues are playing tonight. I realize they're not at home, but more people I feel like are talking about the Battlehawks. I'm not necessarily all that fascinated by the game itself. I watched about half of it, but I'm fascinated by the reaction to it, and you have a little bit of insight on it from the wrestling perspective. And then, as always, whatever people want to talk about, for whatever reason, more and more often in my podcast, politics come up. And today we have the New Hampshire primaries. And after Taco Tuesday at Rocco's tonight,
Yeah.
I will be sitting in front of my television watching the New Hampshire primaries, because that is when the cat says how cool I am, that is actually really just how cool I am. I
What time
couldn't
does
be a
Taco
bigger
Tuesday start?
fucking nerd. I think 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Are you doing Taco Tuesday?
I go out there with you guys. Yeah, I mean.
Well, I didn't invite you to come with me
go
and
out there
James.
with, and then I'll just go out and eat by myself. Then I did it last night. I went to a restaurant and I got
Where'd
a
you
table
go?
for one.
Where'd you go last night?
Just so where I'm staying, there's a little complex, a little strip mall area. I think it's 0.8 miles away. So I walked there last night. I found a Mexican restaurant. And I sat
How was
at
it?
a table of one. It was good.
Was it good?
Yeah, I got some arroz.
So you're gonna have back-to-back.
I might go get pizza. There's a pizza place in there. There's an ice cream
You
place
know how
in
good
there.
the Rocco's tacos.
I
Maybe
do.
I should live stream when they make the tableside guacamole, because I know Doug really thinks that makes a difference in the quality of taste.
Yeah.
Last year when I went in there, you were sitting there. Weren't you sitting there?
I was there with Iggy and Andrew
That's
Miller
right.
at a table
I was
behind
about to say
us.
Andrew Miller
Yeah.
was hanging out. So Taco Tuesday down here, and then I'll be nerding out. So anyway, all of those topics are welcome as we broadcast. Stratum Structural Systems is the sponsor of this random program, which I like the fact I did this during the Cardinal postseason. Now this is on a tripod, but in my basement, or when I'd be coming back from the games, I'd hold up the phone on Uber, and the great Patrick Donnelly, who is just for my money, a phenomenon. I don't know. Maybe like everybody can do what he can do. I can't do what he can do. And he's like, here, now you're connected to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, your page, your personal page, fan page, the whole thing.
I've seen him do stuff that just goes right over my head.
It's unreal. Yeah. So
by the way, I just want to point out, if anybody sees a gator coming up behind us, I know we're on a little bit of a delay, but if you see one creeping up on us, please let us know.
So now all that's going to lead to is alligator alerts in the in the background. Let's see. It's only fitting here for Live from Jupiter, which is a lot like Regis and Kathy Lee. Justin in Columbia is the first one to strike, and he says, my wife wears the same headband that Roderick is wearing when she does her boot camp classes. You are fresh from the gym.
I am. Yeah.
What was today? Leg day? Deadlift?
No, I do full body every day.
Really?
I just switch it up as to what I do today. So I did chest, shoulders, biceps, legs. I did everything today.
Kevin Miller has just offered you $100 to take your shirt off.
Okay.
I would take that.
Yeah, we got a long Facebook Live. He didn't say when I have to do it, but we'll get it done.
A lot of gator emojis now popping up in the chat. I don't even have the YouTube chat open. I guess that would be the restream. I don't know. I got to get in there and see how that hole. How about that hole? How about that whole deal? It's a different world when I don't put it on Twitter. You put it on Twitter and then they come out. But let's see if I can get this on the browser. But anyway, let me start with this, because I think there are some people who probably haven't read this yet. And it just popped up on stltoday.com. Are you familiar with where I'm going here with this?
I have not seen the Carpenter story.
Okay.
I saw the headline. I have not read any of the story yet.
So yesterday afternoon, I'm leaving the Cardinal complex, and I see Rick Hummel is sitting with Matt Carpenter, and so it was like a long session. And the commish has about as much credibility as you can get. So this story was only posted an hour ago on stltoday.com. So this is what he had to say. And again, I'm telling you, the interview I can't wait to do, but I kind of want to have a conversation with him before we do it, because I'm not sure he is in the same mindset as the fan base, is John Mozeliak. And perhaps Carpenter's comments here, which I'm about to read, illustrate that the organization and the players don't get it either. So let me read this here and get people's reactions. In the midst of an interview about the Cardinals' superior defensive performance in 2019, third baseman Matt Carpenter wondered aloud why the team's overall play last season wasn't, quote, celebrated as much as it should be. Fans don't necessarily talk about defense in the offseason, and Cardinal fans have been particularly vocal this winter about the club's need for more offense, especially after its lineup produced 6 runs total in the sweep against the Nationals. Quote, I don't follow chatter from fans a ton, but there might be some frustration from fans that would say, For a team that was so good, why wouldn't you go out and just add what was obviously a missing piece? More offense. But what was really so good about our team last year was our pitching and our defense, and we have all that back. Offensively, maybe outside of Colton, our entire lineup had career worst years. Pitching and defense don't slump for the most part, and if you've got all that back, you've got an offense that you'd have to think is going to rebound. You could imagine we could be even better. I don't know if you get this feeling, but we went to the NLCS last year, and I don't feel like it's been celebrated as much as it should be. So it's like, quote, we really didn't make it because we didn't score against Washington. That's interesting. I think that's super weird. Carpenter continued, we should look at last year and say, wow, we won the division. Let's go back to the beginning. Who thought we were going to win that division? I think last season should be celebrated. Are we disappointed we didn't win the World Series? Of course. Every year we're disappointed. I don't understand it. If we can pitch the same and play defense the same and hit just a little better, who knows what's going to happen? So that's Matt Carpenter. And I have to say this. I get it in the sense of this. Had the Cardinals just lost to the Braves, like 4-2 in Game 5, I don't think there would have been as much angst about the offseason as there has been. But because you had 4 games on display in which they scored a grand total of 6 runs, and a couple of those were because of some questionable defense on the part of the Nationals that I don't think were ruled errors. I know Soto had one in Washington, and was it Taylor in center misplayed Martinez's ball in Game 2?
That's the only one I remember.
But it wasn't ruled an error. But either way, I mean, they just didn't do anything. So I understand it, but here's the issue. The cleanup hitter's gone. He hasn't been replaced. And Matt Carpenter, who had a horrible year last year, is currently on Derek Gould's his Q&A yesterday, penciled in as the cleanup hitter. Yes. But if it's not him, it's DeYoung, and I think he had him in there as well as an option. And then Mike Schilt talked about Yadier Molina. So that's the reason. And I also think something that maybe the players in the organization don't get is the fan base sees the Blues constantly doing things to try to increase its probability of winning, and then down the street, a group that gets $3 million plus a year not doing that this offseason, because last offseason they did make moves with Goldschmidt Miller, and the year before it was Ozuna, and the year before, even though people might not like it, it was Fowler, and certainly don't like what you have with Brett Cecil. But they have made moves, they have spent money. It's how poorly the money's been allocated that's the issue. So with that said, Joe, you heard that article now for the first time. What are your thoughts?
I think it goes back to, well, first off, I think defense doesn't slump, but I think pitching does. I think that part of it jumped out at me when he said pitching and defense don't slump. I do think that pitching does. I think that there's a very, we had Dakota Hudson on today, and he had the best ground ball rate last year. I don't know if it's a given that he's going to have the best ground ball rate again this year. I think Jack Flaherty, I think everybody expects him to be a Cy Young finalist this year, so that part doesn't worry me, but I think Adam Wainwright pitched out of his mind last year. I don't think you can expect Wainwright to have the year that he had. Yeah. And right now, who's your 5th starter right now? Is it KK? Is it Carlos? Is it Gomber?
Who was it yesterday who said, Claiborne, when he was on with us, he said he thought that Carlos Martinez would be in the rotation.
So who's your closer then?
So then it would be a combination of whoever looks the best in the first few months before. So would that be Helsley? Would that be
Miller?
Cabrera? I think Cabrera would be.
Does Miller get a shot at being the closer?
I mean, unless they go matchup. But I mean, there we're talking about pitching. It is the offense that makes people scratch their heads. And I'll tell you this: you were making reference to statistics and slumps. My daily fantasy wizard, who I talk about on the radio show often, and he would always be like, "Oh, let's line up our lineups against the Cardinals because Hudson's pitching and he's just over his skis right now because there's got to be a regression." And there was. It kind of took place at the end of the season, but I was wondering how much of that was nerves related and how much of that was he just was tired related. But yes, because of the ground ball rate, but it's not something that I think the Rockies were necessarily counting on. Let's see. Celebrate with Carpenter, the worst hitting performance ever in postseason against the Washington Nationals, which is why I go back to what I said a little earlier, which is had they just gotten beaten by the Braves in Game 5, like 4-2, I think people would have gone, well, it sucks because they really should have won Game 3. That was the game they were up after Wainwright pitched so well against the Braves, and they lost it, and then they won Game 4. But at least they got back to the playoffs. They won the division. But because they got hammered like they did against the Nationals, it put that offense, which struggled throughout the year, by the way, in a microscope, and then on that stage they just looked helpless. A couple of other things I would also point out is, with regard to Paul Goldschmidt, at the end of the year, it wasn't like they were really tricking him. They were just blowing fastballs past him. And then you had DeYoung with pitchers just going, okay,
right,
and we're going to challenge you, can't do it. And then what do they do with Bader? He was just taking, especially the right-hander, and he was just flailing away. Who made the best contact in the series against the Nationals? It was a very unmemorable series, but when I say the name, I think it'll be instantaneous. Do you remember?
No.
Jose Martinez.
Yep. Okay.
Easily. Yeah. And I don't think he started until Game 4, but he was the one who was hitting the ball the best.
And that was not part of the
team.
Yeah, and that was the big thing about when was he going to finally get a start? When were they going to start him? And it took forever to put him out there. And then last year too, everybody wanted a Rosarena to get a shot, and
now
he's also gone too.
He's also gone that way.
And what I think, yes, you can expect Goldschmidt to have a better year. The way DeYoung talks about hitting, he's such a student of the game and looks into it so in depth. I got to think that he has gone about his offseason a different way, that he's going to start the season a different way, to where he's not going to get tired out after the first 5-6 weeks of the season.
He's going to get some time off this year.
Yeah, but who's backing him up, though?
I would assume Edmund. He brought 4 gloves in yesterday. The Pacoda, by the way, came out today. I always enjoy Pacodaing. And just scrolling through the fan page for everybody's. But I did see the Cardinals. For those of you just seeing this, and on YouTube perhaps, and not on the TMA fan page, the Cardinals, did you see it, Joe, were 80 and 82.
I saw that, and I saw the Reds at 86 wins,
right?
Which I talked with Chris Rose 2 weeks ago, had him on when I was down in Miami, and we talked nothing but baseball the entire time he sat down promoting the Super Bowl. We talked nothing, and he and I got into a bit of a disagreement when I said 90 wins easily wins the Central. And he didn't think that was true. He thought that it was going to be far more than that. He thought the Cubs were still good. He thought the Brewers were still putting out a good team. He thought I do think the Reds are a lot better, but the Reds finished 16 games back of the Cardinals last year. Are the Reds really 16 games improved over what the Cardinals did this offseason? I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's always so tough because when I actually don't like when people throw the games thing around, just because there is an element of variance to health and new players that you have to then compare and contrast who was around and what was their health situation. So I don't know if that's necessarily a great parallel, although I do think when you lay it out, when you're talking 16 games, that does account for variance.
And one of his examples was he thought Trevor Bauer was going to be so much better to help the Reds this year, and I don't see it. I mean, there's a reason the Indians got rid of him, and I didn't think Bauer was that good, has been that good the last 2 years.
Right.
So I think 90 wins easily gets the NL Central, and I said it today on the show that I think that you're going to see the Cardinals look at what they're going to fight their way through June and then see where it is, because the Cubs, I really think David Ross is going to cost the Cubs a few games. The way he's going to manage the bullpen and the way he's just kind of thrown in as a first-year manager, he's going to screw up and he's going to cost them wins. The Brewers, much like the Cardinals, just got worse this offseason. They did nothing to improve. And the Pirates are just going to be wins sitting out there for everybody.
So here are your over-unders on the Cardinals, and this is on Bovada as of, what are we on, February 11th. The Cardinals win total is over 88.5. That's plus 105. They try to suck you in with these pluses. This is on Bovada. Pirates 71.5, by the way. Cubs 85.5. Reds 83.5. A lot of people would say, oh, there's some value on that. And then the Brewers are sitting at 83.5. So, and by the way, the Reds at 83.5 are at minus 165. So you have to put down some cash. Bovada sucks you in on that one. Twins are at 91.5. I'm just looking at some of these as I go. The Yankees are at 101.5.
Oh, wow.
How about that? The magic of adding Garrett Cole.
That's a big 101's a big
I'm telling
number.
you.
What are the White Sox at? Because I friends.
You got some value on CWS? They're at 83.5. Are you giving me inside word? Are you Bud Foxing me?
I mean, I think the White Sox are going to be a very good team this year.
Wow. Maybe I'll put a taste on it.
Look at what they had.
No, I know
one of the best off seasons outside of whatever the. I mean, well, now the Dodgers I think had the best off season of anybody, but I think the White Sox are right up there as one of the top 5 off seasons.
Let me look at that Dodger. I wonder what do you think the Dodger total is.
If the Yankees are 101, Dodgers have to be above 100, right?
I'm going to put the Dodgers at 99.5. Let's see what we got. Los Angeles Angels. Oh, the Dodgers aren't on there. They're not listed. How about that? I guess because the trade just went through.
Waiting on the Jock Peterson deal, or
yeah, it's probably. And the Sox aren't on there either. Interestingly enough, but the Angels are on there. Hey, and then I want to make sure I get into a variety of different topics here. Let's see. Hi, Dad. It's me, Hudson. I ate all my lunch.
That's my son.
I was about to say. I think your son's in the chat.
Yeah, it looks
is
like
he a fan page member?
I guess he is now.
Did he chase Iggy off the fan page?
He caught him off the fan page.
Iggy, come back, please, if you would. So, what is kind of the theme so far at camp? Well, I think Matt Carpenter might sum up what the veteran players' thoughts are, but I really want to talk to Mozeliak because he might be in that same mindset. I think, and I realize Carpenter is kind of in the center of it, because if they don't sign him to that extension, I think they actually are. Well, I mean, I thought they were going to be active anyway. I've been one of the only people who's got no ties, good or bad. Take your pick, whatever your perspective is on it. But I mean, I'm just kind of in my own little world, not doing any, affiliated broadcasting. So I say what I think and don't have to worry about repercussions. But I would always say when people say, "Well, the Cardinals don't spend money," and I go, but they do. They're just spending it really poorly. I mean, really poorly, like really poorly. So that's my concern. But if Matt Carpenter isn't signed to that extension, I would have to think they would have done something this offseason. But I thought they were going to do something anyway. So what I was saying this morning, and I don't recall what the context was, but I said it's kind of like I don't really know outside of the guys themselves to talk about them, like what the overall storyline is for the season, because we're in this weird spot of the team at which we're doing our show from was one of the final 4 teams in the game, but I don't think too many people around baseball thought they were one of the 4 best teams in the game, and that team did nothing this offseason. All due respect to the gentleman who's led to the Korean media here this week. And if anything, the guy who was the cleanup hitter, and again, it's not like he put up ridiculous numbers. He did miss some time. He's gone. So it's like this little dance that we have to play that is odd for us as hosts of the show, which is why I really want to talk to John Mozeliak. So with that said, what I would tell you about what I'm seeing at spring training right now is guys who are saying, I mean, look at what we have. We should be really good, but the people we're broadcasting to don't share that opinion. The analogy I made, and I said this to the Plowboy, who, of course, is a big Green Bay Packers fan. Packers finished in the NFC Championship, and then they were just kind of like manhandled in that game. And you're like, wow, the 49ers were a hell of a lot better than the Packers. And what I was about to say with that is the Cardinals got to the equivalent of the NFC Championship game, but they were kind of on the same level as the Packers. It's like, oh, it's nice that they got there, but we've seen Cardinal baseball in the playoffs like 15 of the years since the 2000 season, and I think that I would put the 2019 Cardinals as the weakest postseason team of them all. And I'm not saying that to be Mike Greenberg hyperbolic here. I mean, that's really how I would analyze it. I'd take your pick of whomever, but I just, and so if you don't add to that team, and your problem was offense, I think it's understandable. Here's the deal. In Matt Carpenter's complaints, I guess I'll call them, he's assuming that defense and pitching will be as good or improve